Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather on this 20th day of July 2020. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first here, we've got, let's see, there we go. A lot of rain fell overnight last night and into early this morning. Southern Kenai Peninsula or down to Seldovia picked up 1 1/3 inches of rain. These are 24-hour amounts. And depending on the 24-hour period you look at, these amounts were even higher than what's shown here. But this was up until 3 p.m. this afternoon. Otherwise, Port Graham, farther to the south there, had about a little over an inch of rain. Rabbit Creek up southeast Anchorage had 1.38 inches. And much of the hillside picked up just under half an inch of rain in the last 24 hours, Anchorage hillside. And then Yakutat had about 2 inches of precipitation. Next chart here showing the lightning strikes as of 2:30 this afternoon. And you can see in and around the central interior, north of Galena, kind of concentrated there over toward the northeast of McGrath, or near McGrath and then off to the northeast there, and then back to the northwest. Even a couple of lightning strikes showing up along the western Brooks Range there, and then off to the east toward the upper Tanana Valley area on the north side of the Alaska Range, and a couple of strikes also in the western Alaska Range. Moving on to fire danger, you can see nothing over central and southern Alaska, completely wiped out with the precipitation. Still an area of high to very high fire danger over the Yukon Flats there, kind of where the Porcupine River meets the Yukon. And then back to the west, a little more widespread areas of high fire danger due to the clear skies, dry conditions of the last several days, along with still breezy conditions, not as windy as yesterday, along the Noatak Valley northwest coast. Let's see, gust 32 miles an hour still occurred today at Pilot Point, or I'm sorry, not Pilot Point, at Point Hope, and otherwise it's more like 10 to 20 miles an hour to the east-northeast, producing sunny skies up in that area. And from there, we'll see hazardous warning graphics. There are no watches, warnings, or advisories out anywhere around Alaska for the next couple of days. And from there, we'll go to rainfall expected. Pretty good rainfall, actually. Some good solid rain expected to move in tonight into the greater Fairbanks area, where they're expecting from 10 p.m. this evening to 10 p.m. Tuesday evening, a little over half an inch. So good soaking rain up in those areas. In fact, Murphy Dome, 0.78 inches, definitely more than a soaking rain. Same for Living Good up there on the top of the graphic. And Clary Summit, I don't know, I probably didn't pronounce that right, but looking at under an inch there, about 0.8 of an inch, and Chena Hot Springs also about 0.8 of an inch, with Salsa picking up 1/3 of an inch, and Nenana looking at 4/10. So wet conditions, definitely a low fire danger year up in the upper Tanana Valley area, and through, again, most of Alaska as well. And satellite imagery, the visible shot here showing low pressure moving eastward in the Gulf of Alaska there. That's what spun the moisture and rain up into south central Alaska, and Cordova picking up an inch of rain, and again Yakutat 2 inches. And the front pushing across the southeast coast brought 0.8 of an inch to Juneau, while Metlakatla down on the south end of the Panhandle had 3/4 of an inch of precipitation. Skies rapidly clearing out behind this system with northwest flow downsloping off the Alaska Range. Temperatures to sit in the valley, lower to mid-70s this afternoon with increasing sunshine. Same thing with the Kenai Peninsula, rising into the 70s in some locations away from the inlet. And actually in the Ninilchik, down in the southern peninsula, they were the warm spot in the state today with 76 degrees, at least as of 3 p.m. this afternoon. Sunny skies there for Bristol Bay, as well as Kodiak Island, with 74 reported at Kodiak State Airport, with northwest winds of 10 to 20 miles an hour. Mostly sunny over the Yukon Flats and along the Brooks Range westward all the way to the northwest coast, and even a ways off the coast with those continued easterly winds pick up the clouds over the Seward Peninsula. And then the Bering Sea, mostly cloudy, new storm pushing in towards Shimia, sort of evident out there to the west. And also clear skies over the Alaska Peninsula. On the chart today, there's that system coming into the western Aleutians with increasing wind and rain. Otherwise, high pressure, light winds, areas of low clouds and fog, some drizzle persisting, but not much along the Alaska Peninsula. And then a little bit of moisture sliding eastward between the two high centers in toward the central Bering Sea. Otherwise, thunderstorms again developing from the Denali Park area, northwest Alaska Range, onto the northwest, up to a couple isolated strikes as we saw along the southern slopes of the western Brooks Range, and also over toward the eastern interior areas from the north side of the eastern Alaska Range. And again, a lot of pretty good precipitation falling there. Northway Tok picking up anywhere from 4/10 to 3/4 of an inch of rain in the last 24 hours. Copper River Basin, wet day also. May Creek had about 3/4 of an inch of precipitation in the last 24 hours, but that all starting to taper off now. Showers tapering off Kenai Peninsula with good clearing coming in over Cook Inlet, and rain continues over the southeast coast. Forecast for tonight, rain changes to showers for the Panhandle, and it stays it stays dry for south central Alaska, maybe some evening showers. And then the area of heavier rain up over the Fairbanks area, and but decreasing over toward Northway and Tok, and then it cuts off altogether by the time you get up into the Yukon Flats. But showers extend westward out to the Nulato Hills. Stays dry and mostly clear for the Brooks Range and northern Kobuk, Koyukuk valleys westward to the northwest coast. Low clouds and fog possible on the Arctic coast, and that system, a couple of lows now out to the west, beginning to push eastward a little bit. And you can see for tomorrow, that brings small craft advisory winds with rain into the central Aleutians. Otherwise, moisture, again, with sliding eastward between the two high centers there, one south of the Fox Islands, the other one up along the Russian far east coast. That'll bring some low clouds, fog, drizzle, or one of the three there to the Pribilof Islands with definitely IFR flying conditions, and also keep it down on the southwest coast with showers over the inland areas of the Kuskokwim Delta. Look for another mostly sunny day there for the central western Brooks Range out to the western Arctic coast with continued offshore flow. Low pressure setting up right near Kotzebue there. Showers south of that across the Seward Peninsula down toward Nome eastward to Koyuk. And showers and isolated thunderstorms possible over the Kenai Peninsula after a mostly sunny start to the day of south central Alaska, with also possible thunderstorms over the Wrangell Mountains, and pretty showery again and cool for the Copper River Basin, and diminishing rain, but still cloudy and damp there for the eastern interior, Tanana Valley, up to about Eagle, and some shower threats for the eastern North Slope, and still pretty showery with low pressure still off the coast of the Panhandle, but rainfall won't be as heavy as it was today. And then Wednesday, shower threat remains in the southeast coast with onshore flow. And so mostly cloudy, showery conditions, highs 50s, lower 60s there. More rain in the Copper River Basin, better chance for showers, more clouds for the Kenai Peninsula, possible thunderstorms. Kenai Peninsula up to the Talkeetna Mountains, maybe even the Chugach, with showers back to the west. High pressure dries it out again along the coast there with probably some sunshine. Yukon, Kuskokwim Delta, Seward Peninsula up into the northern northwest interior. But low clouds and fog widespread along the Arctic coast into the northern Bering Sea. And rain with that system pushes eastward to the Pribilofs by afternoon, and warm front moisture reaches the Fox Islands. Lows tonight, 30s, North Slope, or from the Brooks Range actually, all the way out to the Arctic coast, down to lower 30s there. 40s and 50s elsewhere around the state. And highs tomorrow, 68 to 75 for south central Alaska, Kenai Peninsula, greater Anchorage area, as well as the Copper River Basin, and 55 to 60 for the central interior, but warmer back to the northwest there, Kobuk Valley out toward the northwest coast, 60 to 70. and 72 again for Kodiak Island. Lows 50s, Panhandle 40s and 50s south of the Brooks Range, otherwise 30s north of the mountains. And then highs for Wednesday afternoon. Really now back to struggling for anyone to reach 70, but probably 65 to 70 there for the upper Yukon Valley, westward again to the Noatak Valley, Central Seward Peninsula. Otherwise, mid-60s to Sitna Valley and the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to the first line weather graphic. Tomorrow morning, we've got IFR, Central Eastern Beaufort Sea Coast, VFR, North Slope on down all the way to Cook Inlet, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, Kodiak Island, looking good, as well as along the Yukon River out to the Delta. Area of marginal VFR, Denali Park on up to the north and northwest, back to the Yukon River area, and also for the Wrangell Mountains. And IFR, pretty widespread, Nunivak Island, St. Matthew Island, Pribilofs, southwest to the western Aleutians, and that wraps around the south side of Adak and Atka. Band of IFR north side of the Fox Islands, western Alaska Peninsula. And a batch of marginal VFR pushes to the coastline and actually inland a ways or into the inside waters by tomorrow morning with IFR right on its heels. And then IFR does move into the coastal areas of the central and south coast of the Panhandle as marginal VFR overspreads the remainder of the area. IFR from Yakutat pushes up to the North Gulf Coast, extends westward to Valdez, and some marginal VFR into the Wrangell Mountains, but Copper River Basin generally will be VFR, as well as South Central Alaska, Kodiak Island, although marginal VFR there toward the Trinity Islands and Sitkinak. And an area of marginal VFR, again, right up the Yukon River until you get to the flats, and then it extends over toward Eagle and maybe to the Eastern Alaska Range. Otherwise, VFR north of there, Kobuk, Koyukuk, Selawik Valleys, Noatak looking good, Kivalina, Brooks Range, marginal for the North Slope. IFR, again, right along the coastline, central and east side. Bering Sea, IFR, Aleutians, IFR to Atka, marginal for the Fox Islands, marginal for Bristol Bay, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, marginal VFR to the Kuskokwim Mountains. And then looks like the valley becomes VFR by Wednesday morning there, as in the Kuskokwim Valley. Otherwise, IFR to the Yukon Delta coast, Nunivak Island, Cape Newenham down to the north side of the Alaska Peninsula, all of the Bering Sea just about, with much of the Aleutians from Nikolsky west to Shimianatu in the IFR zone. And IFR, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, especially the central and eastern sound to the Coast Range, and along and inland of the Panhandle, marginal VFR, eastern interior, 40-mile country, upper Tanana, well, just about all the Tanana Valley there, with IFR slipping on up to the western Alaska Range, marginal VFR Cook Inlet, and VFR Kodiak Island persists the entire period there through Wednesday afternoon, as well as Bristol Bay, some VFR up into the Kuskokwim Delta, and an area of marginal VFR again extending eastward there along and north of the Alaska Range into the Tanana Valley, with a band of IFR there along the mountains on the north and northwest side. Otherwise, IFR right up into the Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound, westward to the Chugach Mountains, Turnagain Kachemak Bay, Kamishak Bay, VFR, as well as Bristol Bay, Kodiak Islands, and as I mentioned, VFR, and some IFR in the northern Panhandle and along the coast on down toward Prince of Wales Island, but the inland inside waters looking pretty good. Passes Anatuvik, VFR, and Adigan as well, VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill, good flying tomorrow, VFR, both approaches, and rainy as well. And for the Windy Pass, VFR for Isabel. And for Mentasta, VFR turning toward marginal in the afternoon with some buildups, possible thunderstorm. Tanita, VFR, Sealing's visibility is lowering, probably some showers developing, possible thunderstorms, but should be the VFR variety. Portage, VFR becoming marginal. Chilcoot White, VFR to marginal VFR. Freezing levels, cold air aloft, 2,000 feet there. Eastern Brooks Range and Beaufort Sea Coast. Otherwise, 8,000 in the interior, up to 12,000 toward Dixon Entrance, 10 to 12,000 for the Aleutians. Icing, biggest threat coming into the western central Aleutian areas. Considerable moderate rime icing with that next system. Otherwise, areas of mixed icing, Copper River Basin, along the Yukon River, and maybe the Kuskokwim Delta, as well as the Panhandle. Jet stream, upper level low, keeping the cold air in over the eastern Arctic coast and Brooks Range. Otherwise, westerlies at about 60 knots across the Aleutians and 9,000 feet. Low pressure pushing into the western Aleutians, but 40 to 45 knot northwest winds from Kamishak Bay and the Barrens. And that results in areas of moderate chop for that area. And light to isolated moderate chop Kodiak Island and moderate chop spreading eastward across the western Aleutians in the afternoon.
Just as the sun is part of weather on Earth, it also affects weather in space. The sun creates solar wind by steadily releasing a flow of plasma particles in all directions around it. Sometimes the sun gives off a flash of light and X-rays. This is known as a solar flare. When massive bursts of particles explode into space, we call it a coronal mass ejection, or CME. When a CME is directed toward Earth, it hits the magnetosphere, the magnetic field around our planet that protects us. If the storm is large, we may even get to enjoy a light display in the sky called the auroras. In space, satellites may be damaged, and astronauts should take cover. On Earth, people do not feel any physical effects. We may lose electricity in some areas, polar flights may be rerouted, and satellite services may be disrupted. While these situations aren't ideal, they are rare and fixable. This is why we will continue to study the sun and its interactions with Earth and the solar system.
Longing for more space, open skies, and exotic travel? Then look up, about 30 to 600 miles straight up, at the ionosphere, Earth's interface to space. Nestled far above the clouds but below outer space, this little understood destination invites you to explore its many features. Experience both the weather from Earth and the weather from space. Marvel at the ballet of radio waves and navigation signals, like GPS, leaping through this particled paradise. Sit back, relax, and take in the aurora, some satellites, and the International Space Station as they sail by. And you'll want your camera handy for one of the region's signature features, bright and colorful air glow. This daily show is made possible by the ionosphere's own swirling charged particles, because that's what the ionosphere is. It's all charged particles. During the day, enjoy the sea of particles, freshly energized by the sun. As the sun sets, this particle party relaxes and the air glow thins. Our quieter nightlife lets you gaze into clearer skies. The ionosphere is in constant motion, an amazing effect of space weather. Don't miss when solar storms rain down. The storm separates the particles even more, making this colorful region delightfully more dense in some places and stunningly sparse in others. And don't forget about storms from Earth below. Your weather from back home also stirs up this one-of-a-kind destination. Experience the unique beauty of every season, as changes in Earth's atmosphere, daily and annually, can create pressure waves, changing the ionosphere's shape and density. Venture to the equator, where our particles are packed in lush and thick. Cruise along a magnetic field line and see how the ionosphere's charged material also interacts with Earth's own magnetic field. Don't miss the superhighway of particles zipping out to space and back down to the planet. This unpredictable parade of charged particles can help you unplug and unwind. This is because the crowd of particles can garble the radio and satellite communications from home. The ionosphere welcomes you to discover more about this little-known region. After all, once you've explored this interface to space, who knows how much farther you'll be able to go.
When a star, bigger and more massive than the Sun, runs out of fuel at the end of its life, its core collapses while the outer layers are blown off in a supernova explosion. What's left behind depends on the star's original mass. A star roughly 10 to 20 times our Sun leaves behind a neutron star. A more massive star becomes a black hole. Unlike black holes, neutron stars are directly observable, usually as pulsars, the lighthouses of the cosmos. Discovered 50 years ago, they are the densest observable objects in the universe. Neutron stars compress up to twice the Sun's mass into a city-sized sphere. Matter is packed so tightly that a teaspoon of neutron star interior would weigh more than 1 billion tons on Earth. Still, the nature of the ultra-dense matter in the cores of neutron stars is unknown. Because neutron stars pack so much mass into such a tiny volume, they produce gravity strong enough to bend the light they emit, distorting their appearance in a way that enables the mass and size of the star to be measured. Scientists cannot reproduce the extreme conditions in and around neutron stars on Earth. They must look into the galaxy to answer decades-old questions about extreme matter and gravity. NASA's Neutron Star Interior Composition Explorer mission, or NISA, will make X-ray observations of neutron stars from its perch on the International Space Station. It will give astronomers more insight into these mysterious objects, helping determine what is under their surface. A multi-purpose mission, NISA includes a technology demonstration called Sextant. It will analyze NISA's observations to validate the use of rapidly rotating neutron stars as navigation beacons for travel in deep space throughout the solar system and beyond.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis. Not much change from yesterday with ice along the coast there in lesser concentrations than the heavier ice up to the north. From the central coast eastward almost to demarcation point. And forecast through Wednesday is for the Beaufort Sea is for a slow drift southward of the ice due to northerly winds have been blowing there. But then the winds will become westerly and then eventually go to the south later in the week. So after drifting southward through Wednesday a little bit, then it'll start becoming a little more erratic and drift back to the west and then probably back to the north with slow melt occurring the entire time. For the coastal water forecast, along the outer coastline for the Panhandle, west 15 on the south coast, seas 7 feet, westerlies at 10 on the north coast, and the inside waters, northern and central inside waters, south winds 10 knots with 2-foot seas, Clarence Strait, northwest at 10, seas 2 feet. Light winds continue into Wednesday as well for the south coast, westerlies at 10 knots with 5 to 6 foot seas, and really light winds, south to west, 5 to 10 knots, 5 foot seas, and Lynn Canal, southerlies at 15. Otherwise, south to southeast winds at 10 knots for the central southern inside waters. Prince William Sound and the eastern North Gulf Coast, look for a southwest breeze at 10 knots. With the western North Gulf Coast, southwest 15, seas 5 feet. Small craft advisories for Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, west winds sustained at 30 knots with seas as high as 9 feet, and southern Cook Inlet, southwest winds at 20, north of the Forelands, southwest at 10. And for Cook Inlet on Wednesday, light northwest breeze at 10 knots with 3 foot seas. Small craft advisories continue for Kamishak Bay and the Barrens for west-northwest winds sustained at 30 knots. Small craft advisories for the western North Gulf Coast, northwest 25. Lighter and more southerly there for the eastern North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, northeast 15, 3 foot seas. Kodiak Island, small craft advisories, west winds 25 knots. And Alaska Peninsula, west at 15, with Bristol Bay looking at westerly winds at 20 knots. No change for Bristol Bay on Wednesday, and Kodiak Island, small craft advisories there on the east side of the island and all the way down to Castle Cape for west winds sustained at 25 knots. The Alaska Peninsula, west-southwest at 15. Fox Island, south winds 10 knots, seas 2 to 4 feet. And for Adak and Atka, winds gradually increasing, but not too much. Southerlies 15 to 20 knots with 3 to 5 foot seas. And small craft advisories there, Kiska to Shimmy and Attu, southeast sustained 30. And lighter winds on Wednesday for those areas, southwest 20 knots as the front pushes eastward. That'll bring 30 knot southerly winds into Adak and Atka, and small craft advisories will approach Unmak Island and Kulski late in the afternoon, but Unalaska Island southwest at 20. For the southwest coast, west-northwest 10 to 15 knots, and the Bering Sea, Pribilof, St. Matthew Island west at 10, northwest 20 for the St. Lawrence Island area. And those will fall back to about 15 knots from the northwest for St. Lawrence Island on Wednesday, and the southwest coast west-southwest at 15. Small craft advisories move into St. Matthew Island, picking up to east at 25 knots, south 20 for the Pribilofs. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast there, AKwx to Demarcation Point, west winds at 20 knots with 4 foot seas, otherwise light north to northwest winds for the central and east side. And the west side there, picking up to 20 knots out of the northeast. And small craft advisories again tomorrow from Cape Thompson, or from Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson out of the northeast, Cape Thompson to Wales for northerlies at 25 knots. And for Wednesday, Wales to Cape Thompson, north winds 20. Now lighter winds in these areas under small craft advisories, and light west winds on the western coast, otherwise central and east side, west at 15 with 3 foot seas. And for tonight, pretty good rainfall into the central Tanana Valley area, and will cut off before it gets into the Yukon Flats. And when rain diminishes, change to showers. Copper River Basin stays showery, damp and unsettled for the Panhandle, both tonight and tomorrow. And high pressure over the Bering Sea for light winds. Next system pushing eastward will bring rain and wind in toward at least Adak by late afternoon. Have to wait till tomorrow evening for Atka. Low clouds, fog, and drizzle for the Pribilof. Showers over the southwest interior. Wet over the Copper River Basin. Less rain for the Tanana Valley. Showery for the Panhandle. And more rain for the Copper River Basin on Wednesday, with that storm pushing rain to the Pribilofs by late afternoon.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.